Dr. Judith Orloff, a leading researcher on empaths and emotional sensitivity, made a profound observation that will resonate with your soul. Empaths are the healers, the nurturers, the highly sensitive lovers of this world, but without proper self-care and boundaries, they can become overwhelmed by a world that desperately needs their gifts. If you're an empath, you already know this truth intimately. You've spent your life feeling everything, not just your own emotions, but the joy, pain, anxiety, and heartbreak of everyone around you. Your heart is so open, your sensitivity so profound, that you naturally become a safe haven for others' storms. You're the friend people call when they need someone who truly understands. You're the family member who can sense when something's wrong before anyone says a word. You're the colleague who notices when someone's struggling and offers support without being asked. Your empathy isn't just a trait, it's a superpower that brings healing and comfort to a world that desperately needs more compassion. But here's what happens when you have such a beautiful, open heart. The world can become overwhelming. You absorb your partner's work stress and carry it in your shoulders. You feel your friend's heartbreak as if it were your own. You walk into crowded spaces and get hit by a wave of emotions that aren't even yours. Your nervous system, so perfectly designed for deep feeling, can become overstimulated by the sheer volume of emotional information you process every day. Picture this scene that every empath knows. You're lying in bed, physically exhausted but mentally wired because your mind won't stop processing everyone else's problems. Your mother's loneliness, your friend's relationship drama, your co-worker's anxiety, all of it swirling in your consciousness like a symphony of borrowed emotions. You can't tell where their feelings end and yours begin because your heart has been open to all of it. You might find yourself wondering, is this just how it has to be for people like me? Am I destined to feel everything so deeply that I'm constantly overwhelmed? Here's the beautiful truth that will change everything. Your empathy was always meant to be a gift, not a burden. You were born with the extraordinary ability to heal, comfort, and understand others at a soul level, but you were never meant to sacrifice your own well-being in the process. Your sensitive heart deserves the same love, protection, and care that you so freely give to others. The moment you learn to choose yourself, not instead of others, but alongside them, is the moment your empathic gifts transform from overwhelming to empowering. What I'm about to share with you isn't about becoming less caring or shutting down your beautiful, sensitive heart. This is about learning to love yourself with the same fierce devotion you've always shown others. It's about discovering that choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes your empathy more powerful, more sustainable, and more healing for everyone in your life. You see, most empaths have never been taught that their sensitivity comes with both tremendous gifts and unique challenges. Dr. Elaine Aron's research shows that highly sensitive people process emotional and sensory information more deeply than others. Their nervous systems are more finely tuned, which makes them naturally more responsive to other people's emotions. Some popular articles and self-help books claim highly sensitive people have more active mirror neurons. This neurological gift is extraordinary. It's why you can sense what others need before they ask. It's why you can offer comfort that reaches people's souls. It's why you can create safe spaces where others feel truly seen and understood. Your empathy isn't just emotional. It's actually built into your biology as a profound capacity for healing and connection. But here's what often happens to beautiful souls like you. Somewhere along the way, you learned that your worth was tied to how much you could give, how much you could heal, how much you could absorb for others. Maybe it started in childhood when you naturally soothed family tensions. Maybe it developed in friendships where you became the designated supporter. Maybe it emerged in relationships where your caring nature was so appreciated that it became expected. Without anyone teaching you how to protect and honor your sensitive system, you began giving from your life force rather than your overflow. You started saying yes when your soul whispered no. You began absorbing others' emotions not because it felt good, but because it felt necessary for connection and love. This isn't your fault. Empaths are rarely taught about energetic boundaries or emotional self-care. You've been navigating the world with a superpower that came without an instruction manual. Of course, you've felt overwhelmed. You've been using your beautiful gift in ways it was never designed to be used. What I want to show you is how to honor your empathic nature while also honoring yourself. How to use your sensitivity as a source of strength rather than depletion. How to create what I call sustainable empathy. the ability to feel deeply, love fully, and serve others while also protecting and nourishing your own sensitive soul. This isn't about building walls around your heart. It's about creating healthy boundaries that allow your empathy to flow more powerfully. It's about learning the difference between healthy compassion and emotional overwhelm. It's about discovering that when you take exquisite care of your sensitive system, you actually have more to give, not less. Your empathic gifts are desperately needed in this world, but the world needs you thriving, not just surviving. It needs your empathy flowing from a place of fullness, not emptiness. It needs you modeling what healthy sensitivity looks like, showing others that it's possible to care deeply without losing yourself in the process. Point 1. Let me tell you about a beautiful empath who came to me feeling like she was drowning in everyone else's emotions. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah is a teacher, drawn to her profession by her natural ability to understand children's needs and create nurturing environments. But over her 8 years of teaching, something had shifted. She wasn't just helping her students learn, she was carrying their anxiety, their family trauma, their fears about the future. Sarah would wake up in the middle of the night with her heart racing, not from her own worries, but from absorbing a student's panic about their parents' divorce. She'd walk through grocery stores feeling waves of sadness that weren't hers. She couldn't watch the news because she'd take on the collective pain of tragedies happening thousands of miles away. Sarah's story reflects what happens to so many beautiful empaths. Your gift becomes overwhelming not because there's anything wrong with you, but because no one taught you how to feel deeply while staying grounded in your own center. Here's what's really happening in your empathic system when you feel overwhelmed. Your mirror neurons, the brain cells that allow you to feel others' emotions, are working overtime without adequate rest or protection. It's like having incredibly sensitive antennae that pick up every emotional frequency around you, but no way to tune them or turn them down when you need peace. Research reveals that about 20% of the population has this heightened sensitivity, and it's actually an evolutionary advantage. Highly sensitive people like you were the ones who could sense danger, read social dynamics, and provide emotional support to your communities. Your sensitivity served a vital function. You were the healers, the counselors, the ones who could feel into what others needed. But in our modern world, this beautiful system can become overstimulated. You're exposed to more emotional intensity in a day than your ancestors might have experienced in weeks. Social media exposes you to global suffering. Open office plans bombard you with everyone's energy. 24/7 connectivity means people can reach you with their problems anytime. Your sensitive system is trying to process more emotional information than it was designed to handle. When this happens, you experience what researchers call empathic overload. Not because you're broken, but because your caring system is overwhelmed. Your body responds to absorbed emotions the same way it responds to your own stress, flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline. You end up in chronic activation, not from your own life experiences, but from carrying emotional energy that doesn't belong to you. This shows up in ways you might recognize. Feeling anxious in crowds, getting sudden mood shifts that don't match your circumstances, feeling emotionally heavy after spending time with certain people, or having trouble sleeping because your mind won't stop processing others' problems. Your relationships can become particularly challenging, but not because you're doing anything wrong. Your beautiful, open heart naturally attracts people who are hurting because they sense your capacity for understanding and healing. You become the safe space where others can share their deepest pain, and your empathic system automatically responds by trying to absorb and soothe their suffering. This creates what I call empathic overwhelm, where you're processing not just your own emotional experiences, but everyone else's too. Your nervous system can't distinguish between your authentic emotions and the feelings you've absorbed, so it treats everything as if it's yours to manage and heal. The people in your life often don't realize the toll this takes on you because you're so good at it. You naturally attune to what others need and provide it. You absorb tension from rooms and transform it. You take on others' anxiety so they can feel calmer. But all of this emotional labor is happening inside your sensitive system, and over time it can leave you feeling depleted and overwhelmed. What makes this even more challenging is that your empathic gifts often attract people who've never learned to manage their own emotions. They unconsciously rely on your system to regulate theirs. When they're around you, they feel better because you're absorbing their difficult emotions. But this creates relationships where your emotional energy is constantly flowing outward, while very little supportive energy flows back to you. This isn't anyone's fault. Most people don't understand how empathic systems work. They just know that being around you makes them feel better, so they naturally seek you out when they're struggling. Your compassionate heart naturally responds, and before you know it, you're carrying emotional weight that belongs to others. Over time, this can lead to what researchers call compassion fatigue, the natural result of giving more emotional energy than you're receiving. You might start feeling emotionally numb, physically exhausted, or resentful, and then guilty about feeling resentful because your caring nature doesn't want to burden others with your needs. You might also experience what I call emotional confusion, having difficulty distinguishing between your authentic feelings and the emotions you've absorbed. Are you actually anxious, or did you pick up anxiety from your co-worker's presentation stress? Are you genuinely sad, or are you carrying your friend's grief? This confusion can make it hard to understand your own needs and make decisions that truly serve your well-being. Many empaths also struggle with what Dr. Judith Orloff calls emotional boundaries. Because your heart is naturally open and your system is designed to attune to others, it can feel almost impossible to not absorb emotions that are directed at you or expressed around you. You might feel guilty or selfish when you try to protect your energy because caring for others feels so natural and necessary. The physical impact can be significant too. When your nervous system is constantly processing absorbed emotions, it affects your sleep, your digestion, your immune function, and your overall vitality. You might experience unexplained fatigue, digestive issues, headaches, or other symptoms that improve when you're away from emotionally intense people or situations. But here's what I want you to understand. None of this means there's anything wrong with your empathic gifts. You're not too sensitive or overly emotional. You have a beautifully calibrated system for feeling and healing that's simply been operating without proper support and protection. Think of it like this. If you had superhuman physical strength, you'd need to learn how to use it safely so you didn't accidentally hurt yourself or others. Your empathic abilities are similar. They're a tremendous gift that requires conscious care and skillful use to avoid overwhelm. The overwhelm you experience isn't a sign that you should shut down your sensitivity. It's a signal that your empathic system needs better boundaries, more support, and conscious protection so it can operate sustainably. When you learn to care for your sensitive nature with the same love you show others, your empathy transforms from a source of overwhelm into a source of incredible strength and wisdom. Point 2. Here's something that happens to the most caring empaths, and it's important to understand this with compassion for yourself. When you don't have healthy boundaries around your empathic gifts, your beautiful, caring nature can become a source of unconscious patterns that don't serve anyone, including the people you're trying to help. This isn't about blaming yourself or feeling ashamed. It's about understanding how your caring heart can sometimes get tangled up in ways that create more stress instead of the healing connection you truly want to offer. Many empaths discover that they've unconsciously learned to find their sense of purpose and identity through helping others heal. This makes complete sense. You're naturally gifted at sensing what others need, and when you provide that support, you feel useful, valued, and connected. Your empathic abilities bring such relief to others that it can feel like this is your primary role in relationships and life. But sometimes, this beautiful dynamic can become unbalanced. You might find yourself unconsciously drawn to people who have a lot of emotional intensity or drama, not because you enjoy the chaos, but because their need for your healing gifts makes you feel important and needed. Your caring system can become so focused on others' problems that you lose touch with your own needs, dreams, and inner landscape. This is what Dr. Ross Rosenberg calls human magnet syndrome, where empaths and people with poor emotional boundaries are naturally drawn to each other. You offer healing and stability. They provide emotional intensity and need. Both people get something from the dynamic, but it often leaves the empath depleted while not actually helping the other person develop their own emotional resilience. When this happens, your relationships can start to feel one-sided. You become the designated supporter, the emotional caretaker, the one who's expected to understand and forgive while receiving little emotional reciprocation. You might notice that conversations often center around others' problems while your own experiences get minimal attention or understanding. This pattern can also show up as what researchers call emotional caretaking, where you automatically try to fix or soothe others' difficult emotions instead of allowing them to feel and process their experiences fully. Your caring heart sees someone in pain and immediately wants to take that pain away, but this can actually prevent them from developing their own emotional strength and resilience. Sometimes, empaths can unconsciously use their focus on others' problems as a way to avoid dealing with their own challenging emotions. It's much easier to help your friend process their relationship issues than to sit with your own loneliness. It's more comfortable to absorb your family's anxiety than to face your own fears about the future. Your empathic abilities can become a form of emotional avoidance, where you stay busy healing others to avoid the discomfort of your own inner work. This isn't conscious or manipulative. It's a natural response from a system that's learned to find safety and purpose through giving. But it can create a cycle where you remain focused outward while your own emotional needs go unmet, leading to a growing sense of emptiness or resentment that you then feel guilty about because you're supposed to be the caring one. Another pattern that can develop is what I call empathic responsibility, where you feel accountable for everyone else's emotional well-being. If your partner has a bad day, you feel like you should be able to fix it. If your friend is struggling, you feel guilty if you can't solve their problems. If your family members are unhappy, you take it on as your personal failure. This sense of empathic responsibility can become exhausting because it puts you in charge of emotional outcomes you actually have no control over. You can offer support, love, and understanding, but you can't heal others' pain for them or make their difficult emotions go away. When you try to take on this impossible task, you end up frustrated and depleted while often preventing others from developing their own emotional capabilities. Sometimes, empaths can unconsciously communicate to others that they're fragile or unable to handle strong emotions. You might say things like, "Your anger affects me too much," or "I can't handle negativity right now," which can make others feel angry at you. This creates relationships where people can't use you and have to manage their emotional expression to protect your sensitivity. The most challenging aspect of these patterns is that they can create what looks like closeness but actually prevents genuine intimacy. When you're always in the role of the helper or emotional absorber, others don't get to know your authentic self, your own struggles, needs, dreams, and complexity. They relate to you as the strong one or the caring one, but they never see your full humanity. Meanwhile, you can start to feel invisible in your own relationships. People appreciate what you do for them, but you might wonder if they actually see or value who you are beyond your empathic services. This can lead to a deep loneliness, even when you're surrounded by people who need you. These patterns can also show up in your career if you're drawn to helping professions. You might take on more emotional responsibility than your role requires, staying late to worry about clients, bringing their problems home with you, or feeling personally responsible for their progress. While your caring makes you an extraordinary helper, it can also lead to burnout if you don't maintain healthy professional boundaries. What's particularly painful about these dynamics is that they often develop because your empathic heart is so genuine. You really do want to help. You really do care about others' well-being. Your intentions are pure and loving, but without conscious boundaries and self-care, your beautiful gifts can become entangled in patterns that serve no one well. The key insight here is that these patterns develop not because there's anything wrong with your empathic nature, but because you haven't been taught how to use your gifts consciously and sustainably. It's like being given a powerful tool without instructions. Of course, you might use it in ways that create challenges. Recognizing these patterns isn't about judging yourself harshly or feeling guilty about how you've been caring for others. It's about understanding that your empathic gifts work best when they're expressed from a place of fullness rather than depletion, choice rather than compulsion, and conscious love rather than unconscious habit. When you learn to care for your own sensitive system with the same devotion you show others, your empathy becomes more powerful, not less. You can offer deeper healing because you're not depleted. You can create healthier relationships because you're not carrying what doesn't belong to you. You can serve others more effectively because you're operating from overflow rather than emptiness. Point 3. Now here's where your journey becomes truly beautiful. When you learn to choose yourself alongside others, when you discover how to honor your empathic gifts while also protecting your sensitive system, something magical happens. Your empathy transforms from a source of overwhelm into your greatest strength. This transformation doesn't mean becoming less caring or shutting down your beautiful open heart. It means learning what I call conscious empathy, the ability to feel deeply while staying grounded in your own center, to offer healing while maintaining your own emotional equilibrium, to love others fully while also loving yourself fiercely. The first shift you'll notice is what feels like developing an internal compass that helps you navigate emotional energy more skillfully. Instead of automatically absorbing every emotion around you, you begin to sense, this feeling belongs to me and I need to honor it. That feeling belongs to someone else, and while I can offer compassion, I don't need to carry it. This isn't about becoming less sensitive. You're actually becoming more intelligently sensitive. Your empathic abilities become more refined, like tuning a radio to pick up clear signals instead of static. You can still feel others deeply, but you feel them consciously, choosing how much emotional energy to engage with based on what serves everyone involved. Dr. Judith Orloff calls this empathic boundaries, and research shows that empaths who develop these skills actually become more effective healers, friends, and partners. When you're not constantly overwhelmed by absorbed emotions, you can offer clearer guidance, more stable support, and deeper wisdom. You become like a lighthouse, grounded in your own foundation, able to shine light for others without being destabilized by the storms around you. The energy shifts are often the first thing empaths notice. Instead of feeling drained after social interactions, you start to feel energized by genuine connections and naturally able to step away from interactions that deplete you. Your nervous system develops what feels like a built-in protection system. You automatically create distance from energy that doesn't serve you and gravitate toward people and situations that nourish your soul. Sleep becomes restorative again because you're not processing everyone else's emotional residue at night. Your mind can finally quiet because it's not trying to solve problems that belong to others. Your body relaxes because it's not carrying stress and tension that aren't yours. You wake up feeling like yourself instead of feeling like an emotional processing center for everyone around you. But the relationship transformation is perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this journey. When you start honoring your own needs alongside others, you naturally attract people who appreciate your sensitivity without exploiting it. The quality of your connections changes completely. Instead of one-sided caring relationships, you experience mutual support, genuine reciprocity, and deep intimacy. You discover that healthy people aren't intimidated by your sensitivity. They're drawn to your authenticity. They appreciate your ability to understand them deeply, and they want to understand you just as deeply in return. They respect your boundaries because you respect them. They value your empathic gifts because you value them too. The people who were comfortable with the old dynamic, where you gave endlessly while they took freely, naturally begin to fall away or transform their behavior. This might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's actually your life reorganizing around healthier connections. You're no longer attracting relationships built on your self-sacrifice. You're magnetizing relationships built on mutual care and respect. Your intuitive abilities become remarkably clear when they're not clouded by emotional overwhelm. When your system isn't constantly processing absorbed emotions, your authentic empathic insights become incredibly sharp. You can sense the truth beneath people's words, feel into the potential of situations, and access guidance that feels almost supernatural in its accuracy. This clarity happens because you're finally sensing from a clean, protected space rather than through the filter of absorbed anxiety, sadness, or confusion. Your empathic gifts can operate the way they were meant to, as a source of wisdom and insight, rather than overwhelm and confusion. Your career often transforms beautifully when you bring conscious boundaries to your empathic work. If you're in a helping profession, you discover that you can offer more effective support when you're not carrying your client's emotional weight. You become a skilled facilitator of others' healing rather than someone who tries to heal for them. Your professional relationships become more sustainable because you're not giving from depletion. If you're not in a traditional helping profession, you might discover that your empathic abilities make you incredibly valuable in any field that involves understanding people, sales, management, creative work, or entrepreneurship. Your ability to sense what others need and respond appropriately becomes a tremendous professional asset when it's not overwhelming your system. The creative expansion that often happens when empaths learn healthy boundaries can be breathtaking. Many empaths discover artistic abilities, writing talents, innovative problem-solving skills, or entrepreneurial ideas once their mental and emotional energy is freed from constant emotional processing. Your sensitivity to beauty, inspiration, and possibility becomes a source of tremendous joy and creative expression. Your relationship with yourself undergoes the most profound transformation. For perhaps the first time, you begin to treat your own emotions with the same tenderness you've always shown others. You start honoring your own needs with the same respect you've given everyone else's. You develop genuine self-compassion, the ability to comfort yourself with the same kindness you offer friends. You discover that you actually enjoy your own company when you're not carrying others' emotional weight. Your own thoughts become interesting when they're not drowned out by absorbed anxiety. Your own dreams feel important when you're not too depleted to pursue them. You realize that caring for yourself isn't selfish. It's essential for sustaining your ability to care for others. Self-care transforms from something you should do into something you naturally want to do. You begin to understand that maintaining your emotional well-being isn't just good for you. It's a gift to everyone in your life. You can't pour from an empty cup, and when you keep your cup full, you have so much more love, wisdom, and healing to offer others. This creates what I call sustainable empathy, the ability to feel deeply and love fully without depleting yourself. You give because you want to, not because you feel obligated. You support others because you genuinely care, not because you need to be needed. You offer healing because it flows naturally from your fullness, not because you're trying to earn love or avoid rejection. You become a living example of what healthy empathy looks like, showing others that it's possible to be deeply sensitive without being overwhelmed, highly intuitive without being ungrounded, compassionate without being self-sacrificing. Your very presence becomes healing because you model what it looks like to honor both your empathic gifts and your own well-being. The beautiful paradox is that when you finally choose yourself, you become more valuable to others, not less. When you're grounded in your own center, protected by loving boundaries, and energized by authentic self-care, your empathic abilities become more powerful than they've ever been. You can offer deeper healing because it comes from abundance rather than depletion. You can provide stronger support because you're not wobbling from emotional overwhelm. You can love more fully because you're including yourself in that love. This is what empowered empathy feels like. Sensitivity in service of life rather than in service of suffering, compassion that includes yourself, healing that flows from wholeness rather than woundedness. Here's the moment of truth that changes everything. You've been taught that your empathy makes you responsible for healing the world's pain. But what if your real purpose as an empath is something far more powerful? What if you weren't born to absorb everyone's suffering, but to show them how to transform it? Every person you've drained yourself trying to fix, every emotion you've absorbed trying to ease someone's burden, every boundary you've dissolved trying to prove your love, none of it actually healed them. Because here's what no one tells empaths: you cannot do someone else's emotional work for them. When you try, you rob them of their own strength while destroying yours. The deepest wounds you carry aren't from feeling too much. They're from the lie you were taught that your empathy obligates you to self-erasure. that being sensitive means being available, that having a gift means giving it away until there's nothing left. But imagine this. What if the moment you chose yourself, you didn't lose your empathic power, you unlocked it? What if every time you've said yes from obligation, you were actually weakening the very gift you were trying to use? What if your depletion has been blocking the full expression of your empathic brilliance all along? Because here's what happens when an empath finally chooses themselves. You stop being a sponge and become a mirror. You stop absorbing others' darkness and start reflecting back their light. You stop carrying what isn't yours and start showing people they have the strength to carry themselves. The world has convinced you that your value lies in how much you can withstand, how much pain you can absorb, how much chaos you can stabilize, how much emotional labor you can provide without ever asking for rest. But that's not empathy, that's martyrdom. And martyrdom doesn't heal anyone. True empathy, conscious, powerful, transformative empathy, comes from a soul that knows its own worth, from a heart that's so full it overflows naturally, not a heart that's been drained empty by obligation, from a presence so grounded in its own center that it can hold space for others without collapsing into their chaos. Your sensitivity was never meant to be your sacrifice. It was meant to be your sovereignty. The most revolutionary act an empath can commit is this: loving yourself as fiercely as you've loved everyone else, and discovering that when you finally do, your empathy doesn't diminish, it becomes unstoppable. If you've made it this far, beautiful soul, you're not just any empath. You're an empath who's ready to reclaim the true power of your gifts. You're tired of feeling overwhelmed by emotions that aren't yours. You're ready to stop giving from emptiness and start sharing from fullness. You're prepared to transform your sensitivity from a source of depletion into a source of incredible strength. But here's what I want you to understand with all my heart. Reading about these concepts isn't enough to create lasting change. You can understand every principle about empathic boundaries, watch every video about self-care, and know intellectually that you need to choose yourself. But until you start practicing these principles in real moments, with real people, in real situations, your life will continue feeling overwhelmed. Your transformation begins with one conscious choice, one moment when you pause before automatically absorbing someone else's emotional state, one time when you choose to feel compassion for someone's pain without taking that pain into your own body. One decision to honor your own emotional needs with the same respect you show others. It starts tomorrow when someone begins sharing their problems with you, and instead of immediately absorbing their emotions, you take a breath and silently remind yourself, I can care about this person's experience without carrying it in my system. I can offer love and support while staying grounded in my own center. It starts when you walk into a crowded room and instead of immediately scanning everyone's emotional states, you first ground yourself in your own energy. You practice what I call empathic consciousness, choosing when, how, and with whom you share your beautiful gifts. It starts when you feel that familiar pull to fix someone's emotional pain and you pause to ask yourself, what would truly serve this person? My taking on their emotions or my holding steady space for them to feel their own feelings fully? These moments might feel unfamiliar at first. Your system has been trained to absorb first and ask questions later. Your caring heart might worry that protecting your energy means you're being selfish or uncaring. But I want you to remember that this resistance isn't coming from your authentic empathic wisdom. It's coming from old patterns that learned to equate love with self-sacrifice. Your true empathic nature, the part that knows you can't heal anyone while you're drowning, will feel profound relief when you start honoring your sensitivity. It will feel like finally coming home to yourself after years of living in everyone else's emotional chaos. The people who truly belong in your life will not only accept your boundaries, they'll celebrate them. They might be surprised at first because they're used to your unlimited availability, but the ones who genuinely care about you will be grateful to see you taking care of your beautiful, sensitive soul. And those who can't handle your empowered empathy, they were never really connected to your authentic self anyway. They were attached to your unlimited emotional labor, your unprotected giving, your willingness to absorb their difficult emotions so they didn't have to feel them. Most empaths will spend their entire lives pouring their gifts out without conscious boundaries, never realizing they were meant to be healing springs that flow endlessly from a deep, protected source rather than rivers that drain themselves dry. But you're different. You're ready to discover what conscious empathy feels like. You're ready to choose yourself, not instead of others, but alongside them. Your empathic gifts have been waiting your whole life for you to finally honor, protect, and use them with the consciousness they deserve. Your sensitive soul is ready to come home to itself. Don't keep it waiting any longer.